Hey, welcome to Casual Yelling. We got something special for you because of the move from Substack to Patreon. Every episode of I Just Want to Talk to Friends was wiped from the server. However, I have everything saved, so they're going to be right here on Patreon for free. I'm going to upload some of the old episodes that I really enjoyed, and that's about it. You're going to hear me say, I just want to talk to friends, but just keep in mind this is a rebrand, so it's under Casual Yelling. All of these episodes have previously been put up on Substack under the I Just Want to Talk to Friends banner, so if you were a fan of that and had already listened to these episodes, you're going to hear the same stuff. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to keep all the stuff I like on the new website. That's it. Thank you for subscribing or not. I don't know what you do. Rate and review us on iTunes. Thanks. Hey friends, welcome to I Just Want to Talk to Friends, a show about existential dread and getting over trauma. Real positive stuff. I'm Matt Elfring. With me is a great friend who I don't think I've talked to in like 2 months. Please applaud wherever you are for Jordan Holmes. Hi, Jordan.
Hello. This is the sound of my voice.
Yeah.
Matt, it's good to talk to you.
It's great.
Yes, it has been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, because you were gone out of the country. And
yes,
we just didn't talk, and now you're back, and we still didn't talk.
Well, I mean, that's kind of I'm noticing more and more my relationship with all human beings is like when I go outside, you exist, and then if I'm just in here, you may not. Who knows? Solipsism is a question for the ancients. I just live it. Is that what I'm saying? All right.
Yeah.
I'll stick with that one. Yeah, sure.
This is how we're getting into it. This is how we're getting into it this week.
Sure, I'll sign off on that.
For those who aren't aware of you, what do you do? I hate that question so much, but I have to do it.
Well, I am the co-host of the Knowledge Fight podcast. Yeah, I don't know. It's always weird to try and describe it to people. I'll do my best. Dan listens to Alex Jones's show on InfoWars and then cuts clips to play for me, and then I react to them and we kind of dissect it and also laugh at it, right? Mm-hmm. That's about right.
I think so.
So yeah, if that sounds batshit insane to you, that's probably because you're right. You're 100% correct.
And you do it every day.
We don't do it every day. We do it probably 2 to 3 times a week. Come on.
But that feels like every day when you have to listen to someone like Alex Jones.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, Dan has to do about 3 times the listening that I do. And at some points in time, upwards of 60 times the listening that I've had to do in order. When we did the live shows in the UK, I think he listened to maybe 50, 60 plus episodes in the past that he couldn't use. So just wasted all of that time listening just to find one that we could do for a live show. So yeah, if you think this is torture, it is.
If you think this is torture, be Dan.
It is. Yeah. I agree.
I wanted to bring up something. I didn't tell you this before we started the show. I talked about how I went up to Canada. My dad drove me to the airport, and he picked me up at my house, and I got in the car, and he's like, "Oh, hold on, like the Bluetooth is all messed up on the phone or whatever. I can't get anything to work." And then something started playing, and it was your voice. He's like, "No, don't listen to that. Don't listen to that."
Oh my God.
My dad's listening to the Knowledge Fight on the way to pick me up.
Jesus Christ. It is so, oh man.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's weird. Especially because at this point, there are so many different ways that you hear my voice without me being anywhere near you.
Yes. It's like you're encompassing me at all times.
I am available. I no longer exist as a person. I am more of an idea.
Sometimes I'll just answer the podcast back. I agree, Jordan. Why aren't you talking back to me? What happened to our relationship?
Yeah, it'll happen.
It'll happen. So I like to bring up how we met, and I don't remember. I know it was stand-up comedy. A big part of the show is like, remember that time we met?
I would like to bring up how we met, but I cannot. I physically cannot do so. In the universe we inhabit,
Nope.
our friendship is such that it both never began
and it'll never end.
It exists outside of time.
It's circular, and it's just we've always existed.
No, we met at the Comedy Shrine because Lewis Ryan was he had just started talking to me. Like, this was probably about maybe 8-9 months into doing stand-up, or 2 years, who knows. That's how long you can be bad for and not know. You know, when it's that early, you can really suck for a long time. Yes. But in your brain, you're like, oh, it wasn't that long. I didn't suck for that, you know. And then, you know, I up to and including now. So Lewis Ryan had just started talking to me, and he was like the funniest fucking dude.
Yes.
In the open mic world in the suburbs at the time. He was just so naturally funny, so brilliant, and such a good writer.
Yeah.
So great. And so, like, him starting to talk to me was literally almost like an opening up the world of Friends kind of thing, because everybody knew Lewis. Everybody knew that Lewis was good, you know, and that he would just start talking to me was like, well, at least I could tag along. Like, somehow I'm like 24 years old, and I'm like, hey, I'm the young kid. Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. Kevin Lobkovich was 9. Like, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous how old I was to be young.
Yes.
And so that was when we met, is after one of the sets at the Comedy Shrine. Lewis and I were hanging out talking about our bits, and you came out and you had introduced, or no, you were talking to Lewis, and then we started talking about comic books.
Okay.
Because that was the only thing I knew that I could, like, well, I know you have a one thing, you know?
Yeah. I know you're a one-dimensional interest person.
No. I mean, I know that is a thing that I can enter into. You know, yeah. I can't just walk in and be like, "Hey, the blood drinkers." You know, like that's not how you start a conversation. No. You try and do something like that. So yeah, and then we met, and then I think I was I think we didn't really talk much for maybe 2-3 years.
Probably.
And then I started, because I didn't go out to St. Charles that much.
Yes.
And that was back in the days where there was that big cavernous room. Which one was that?
Are you talking about Cordon Blues, the show I ran there?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Man, that place. Drufke recorded an album there.
Mike Wiley recorded an album there.
Yeah. Oh man. The memories of people who failed to become successful.
Guys, do you see the room I'm running? It holds 300 people. We once got 80 in here.
I mean, come on. It's the best to fail at stand-up. No one should succeed, and the people who do, God bless them. That's my life philosophy now. Everything should be dead. If it's not, God bless you.
Congratulations to you.
Yeah. We made it. So then I started going out to St. Charles because I started getting booked out there more.
Yeah.
And Drufke started hanging out there more. And then we started hanging out more. And then about a year after that, I was banned from your home.
Yeah, you were, I'll fill in like a little bit of gaps.
Do you need to? I feel like that's plenty. People could fill in the blanks on their own, and it'll probably be just as good.
Because when you came into comedy, it was very, very, very clicky. It was like,
Oh yeah.
it was like me, Drufke, Jack Baker, Lewis, Ryan, and Joe Motese, which all of us, including yourself, became later known as the Friendship Sharks, I believe, or something like that.
Something along those lines. Yeah.
Or Prattle Rattle or Crap Trap or whatever we were doing.
We had more than one.
More than one name. I think we finally settled on Friendship Sharks.
Friendship Sharks, I do believe, was where we ended up, or at least the last name that the group chat acknowledged.
Yes.
After Jokes Motease Me began the changing the name all the time, nothing mattered but Friendship Sharks.
No one ever called Joe Motese by his real name. We always called him Jokes Motease Me. No longer doing comedy.
No. He's happy now.
Yeah. That's what happens is you stop doing comedy, you get happy.
Yeah.
That's what that Partridge Family song is all about. It's about leaving showbiz and fame to come on, get happy.
You know, I that's something that I've been thinking about so much, because we watched this like documentary series called, I want to say it was called Circus Kids, something like that.
Oh, it sounds depressing already.
No, that's the thing about it though. It's not like, how can I put it? It's not like the people who would come to Princeton, Illinois, where I grew up, giving one single twirly whirly that was made out of things that it should not have been made out of. And then it was repaired with even worse stuff. Like that's what it was. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about big tent circus kids. And every single one of these people continually introduce themselves with like, my name is Jared. I'm 13th generation circus. And you're like, these are the happiest people on the fucking planet, aren't they? It's either that or like they never leave the circus. Because of course not. Why would you? Why would you leave the circus?
You're always on tour. You always have a job.
You're always a kid doing the most fun things. You have a built-in social network made up of people who are exactly like you.
Yeah.
There's no like high school like feeling out like, oh, this person has different. No, circus people. You're all there.
You can never be unhappy when you're surrounded by the same person.
Oh man, I'm really depressed. Uh-oh, somebody's juggling. Nope. Guess not.
I took the family to the circus, to Ringling Brothers 2 weeks ago, and no animals anymore, which I'm super pro. That's great.
100%. Yeah.
It was 3 hours of people doing flips, which I could not have made me happier. It's like, I don't get to see flips in real life enough. And here's 3 hours of people doing flips with fire, people doing flips on giant metal things that spin around, people that do flips on a bike. Someone brought out a BMX bike and did a flip. I felt like I was in 1986. It was great.
I love that somehow they've created like the Bubba Gump of flips. How many different ways can you prepare a flip? I mean, let's find out.
That's what the circus is now. Do you like flips? Yes? Ringling Brothers.
Yeah. Oh, man. But the thing about those is it does make me dream of becoming a sad clown in one of those. Those are so moving and beautiful in such a way.
I hate to be a spoiler alert person here. No clowns.
No clowns.
There was like 3 Ukrainian guys that were in like sequence jackets with like the coattails hanging behind it, and like they did funny things where like they fall over and they look at the audience. It's
clowning.
It's
clowning,
but it's not clowns.
That's not clowns.
Yeah, but it was definitely clowning. But you know, they fall and they look at the audience like, I can't believe what just happened. And 7 kids laugh.
Yeah, nah, unacceptable.
No.
See, that's carny shit. That's not
was
carnival.
Very carny. But then they distract you and be like, well, here's some people from Argentina who are also going to do flips. Look over this way.
Yeah, but do you know what? I bet if you talk to them, they'd be like, we're 68th generation Argentinian circus people. back there were it was Tenochtitlan and the Aztecs, and then we were the circus. That was the three dynasty. That's
Three circus
that's what I got.
dynasties.
The three dynasties. Yep. I'm gonna do that.
Argentina, we have many, many things to export around the world, including circus people.
What can I say? That is unrivaled.
You're still doing the comedy on occasions. You're still doing. No, you're done.
No, I'm done. I haven't done stand up for probably 2.5 years.
Good for you.
Well, yeah. I tried. I mean, well, I tried to go back and do, I think maybe an open mic or two around January or something like that. And it is dark out there. The pandemic wiped it out. You know, like, here's what I think happened, because I've checked out a few specials. I haven't watched stand up in a long time.
Yeah.
But I checked out like Beth Stelling's new special.
Yes.
Great. You know, looking into that, so good. Kyle Kinane's special, so good. Like, the people who were good when the pandemic hit stayed good.
Yeah.
Everybody who was below that level has just seemed like to reset, and now everybody's back at the bottom.
Everybody's first year.
It really feels like that. It really felt like whenever I went to these open mics, I saw some people that I knew, but most people that I didn't, and it was just like,
yeah,
it was not good.
I tried to start like writing jokes this year, and I was like, you know, I had like a bad year, and I'm like, I'm just gonna like write all of this out, and everything I was writing was angry and dark and like not 1 ounce of happiness.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Nothing.
It was a pandemic. It's not our fault. I blame Jared Kushner for the death of comedy. In the 80s, it was, I don't know, cocaine.
Yeah.
Now it's Jared Kushner, clearly.
You're completely blaming him.
Somebody's got to go down for it.
Yeah. Why not? Why not him?
Why not him?
Why not him? That's my new bumper sticker. Please buy it. I might upgrade that Substack.
That's my political slogan, you know? And people are going to be like, oh, you for? And I'm like, no. Why not take him next? That's it. But it's better if I say, why not him, and not, who's next?
Then you just sound like Goldberg.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the beginning of this year. You were, I think, the first person to reach. I was going through texts. You were the first person to reach out to me after I lost my job, and I will say publicly, thank you.
I really?
Yeah, it was 2 hours after I was laid off.
Oh, how about that?
Look at you.
I will say this. Complete stroke of luck. That is 100%. Because I only check social media like every now and again.
Yeah.
So it was like I had logged back into my dummy Twitter account that has that, you know, because I got rid of the one that had all the followers and stuff. So now I've got just a little woo. And it was like you popped up, and it was like literally, here are all the layoffs going on. And it was just fucking devastating. Like, it's just such bullshit. Because it's not a unique story. It's
still happening in journalism and tech. Like the other day, two of my friends lost their job. It's just like, what the hell? Yeah.
Oh, and didn't I think the Gizmodo people just laid off a shit ton of people too. Like, it's just the world is collapsing.
It's great. It's great to be a writer in 2023.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I'm working on a new novel.
Are you really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's right. We did talk about that.
Yeah, I'm actually really stoked because I finally broke the story. You know, I had a bunch of stuff. But yeah, that doesn't make a book, you know. But yeah, I finally broke the story on it, and now everything's starting to move a lot faster.
That's awesome.
So yeah, because it's been 3 years. And it's not been fun.
No, not at all.
No.
We were having some fun. Bam, transition.
Nice.
Back in February, you had me doing Twitch streaming with you as you were trying to speed run Final Fantasy 7, 6?
Yes.
7.
Final Fantasy 7. Yes. rather, because like I said, I tried to dip my toe into stand up again, and that was a tragic disaster.
Yes.
I hated it, but I still wanted to avoid writing, so I needed to do something else. And it was at the time that Games Done Quick was going on, and I had kind of streamed in the past. I had done a streaming show called Watch Magicians with me a few times, which is inexplicably fun and cool, but it could never work.
No.
But for the people who enjoyed it, it really was great. Like Joe Kasabian guested on it, and it is such a fun thing. Yeah. But yeah, so then I figured, fuck it, I'll try the speedrunning thing.
Yeah.
And the only game that I could think of that I would have the interest in just constantly repeating over and over and over again, because I've done it so many times, is Final Fantasy VII, which is a terrible idea because it's a 7 million hour long game. And even if you're great at speedrunning it, it's a 7 hour long game.
Yeah.
Yes. It's 7.5 hours long if you're great. But what was really cool about it is that there were a bunch of little skips and tricks that you can just practice and master.
Yes.
And that's what I was really looking for at the time, is like, and that's what video games really kind of promise you, is what real life doesn't. Deliberate, gradual progress.
Yes.
A level up that you are rewarded for in that moment. You don't have to look back in time and be like, oh, that was when I went from blank to blank. It's there, and you get the immediacy of it.
Yeah.
And so practicing all of that was really fun. And then you had lost your job, and you weren't really doing anything during the day.
And mentally wasn't doing well at all.
Yeah, no. That was, yeah. That was very important too. So it was really, it just made perfect sense to just be like, hey, come, yeah, why not? Just come do this. But then you did get a job, and after that, it was like I felt like Bagger Vance. Like I was like, okay, well now I fade into the forest again. Like I've got this white man through a dark period of his life. now it's time for me to disappear.
It was like as soon as I started at Meow Wolf, like, I'm not streaming anymore. I'm like, well,
yeah. Well, I mean, after that, it really did feel like, well, there's no point in doing this anymore. But it was also because in the course of the speed run, I had reached a point where if I just like I'm able to do everything.
Yeah.
Now the only step from here is repeating it over and over and over and over and over again until the time is lower.
Yeah.
That's it, and so I can do that. But that's a lot of time, and I've proven to myself that I could do that, as opposed to this is an unconquerable thing,
Yeah.
So that at that point, it's like, well, I spend the next 4 years streaming and trying to play this game, or I actually try and write a book like I fucking should be doing and have told myself for years.
Yeah, because I mean, there are a lot of streamers out there that are doing, speed runs. Sathdress was one of them that was in your room all the time.
Yeah, I love Sathdress.
Awesome.
Great guy. Great guy.
But like, that's what he does. That's his living, like he's just on there 7 hours a day or whatever his schedule is, just speed running.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can make that choice to like have that be a big part of your career and just switch to like GDC or GDC, GDQ, whatever. I can't spell.
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
They both have or you can like focus on something you're more passionate about. And I'm sure people like Sathdress are very passionate about speed running.
Totally.
But that's not your main focus as a creative person.
Right.
I mean,
yeah. I mean, Lord knows at this point, when I look back, I don't know what my main focus as a creative person is.
Yeah, well, you're a writer.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's what I have maintained to be since I was fucking 12.
Yeah.
And I think I'm really fucking good at it, but I better be.
You have to
at this point.
you have to be good to continue, or else it's, I don't know. I've seen a lot of people in my time who have said they're writers and don't take criticism well, and you need to take criticism well in order to be a good writer, or otherwise you just, it's all ego and it's all bullshit, and you're just going to fail because you'll never get better.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that you have to always remember about yourself when you're writing is whenever you're getting criticism, your immediate response is, I was doing this. This is what I was doing. Right. Yeah. And if you think that that's pushing back, you've already lost.
Yes.
Because when you say this is what I was doing, what's implied by that is, and I didn't succeed because you're telling me it's not what happened.
Exactly. If the person reading and editing your writing is saying, I don't understand this, that's your fault as the writer.
Yeah.
It's not the fault of the reader.
Nope.
I think that's the biggest, in my years of being an editor, that's the biggest obstacle I've had to overcome with certain types of personalities, we'll say.
Sure.
It's like, no, I'm the best writer ever. You're reading it wrong. It's like, no, I'm reading it. It's English. I understand.
Oh, yeah, totally. No, and and that's the other thing, like part of the book that I did finish, or the book that I put out, The Quiet Part Loud, is that there were a couple of sections that are deliberately there so you can't understand them.
Yeah.
Like that, but that is something that when somebody looks at me and tells me I didn't understand that, I go, that is my point. Not, here's what I was trying to do. It's like, no, you got it. That's what I was doing. That's the point. So now you can keep going. No. You can keep going, or you can bail at that point. Like, that's kind of how I really wanted to make this, because I get so annoyed at very long sci-fi and fantasy books now.
Yeah.
Oh, so. And I wanted to try and rip out everything that I could possibly rip out of a book.
Yeah.
Because it was originally about 110,000 words.
Jeez.
And then I edited it down to about 50. And I just tried to deliberately cut as much as I can out. Like I had Devin print it out at school using their paper. I had her printed out at school using her paper. So I had this gigantic stack of paper and my red pen and scissors. And it was violent. Just like, this is gone. This is gone. You're a failure. Like anytime somebody asks me to hey, you want to take a look over this writing? And Devin's there. She's like, don't let him look at it. You don't want to know. You don't want to know. Sure, it'll make you a better writer, but you don't want to know. And it's like, man, whatever my red pen has done to other people, the damage that it's done to my heart is far greater.
Your red pen and scissors is my Google Doc highlighting and making a comment. Do you really need this?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
But you seem to be enjoying writing more than anything else, because even when you were doing comedy and you were very, very good. You were very good.
I was okay. Here's what I'll say. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. I think I was good because Marty is kind of like, this is the way that I thought about it with Marty DeRosa.
Yeah.
When Marty was like, hey man, good set, that's when I was good, and that's when I can be there. That's where I stayed. So I'm stoked to stay there. That's a thing that 95% of comedians will never experience. They'll never be good, So I'm stoked to have been good.
I also once got the pat on the back for Marty. That was a good set. And I've never seen him do that to anybody else at that point. It was at Tilted Kilt in Elgin. So it was already a gross show. Gross is it's a sexualized Hooters type atmosphere. And I just go up there, do my set about possibly kissing guys or whatever I was doing back then. Like all the jokes
Sure.
ended with like, not even a joke, but like they ended with like, hey, we're all bisexual. Screw you. And Marty came up to me and like patted me on the back and goes, that was a good set. And like, I was opening for him and I'm like, Marty DeRosa said I had a good set. Everybody needs to hear this.
Yeah. Yeah. It really was so much of like Marty saying you are good is an official thing in Chicago.
Yeah.
Danny saying you're good. I don't know. I don't know if he's ever said that to anybody about anything.
My experience with Danny was like, you want to go play pool after this? Like that's it. Hey, we did a comedy show. Let's go play some pool.
I acknowledge you exist.
Yeah.
But he's so fucking funny.
He is.
I love Danny Callis so fucking much.
And then
so goddamn funny.
Drew Michaels scared the shit out of me as a human.
Sure.
Like he was a good comedian. I don't know if he's doing anything now. I haven't seen anything, but
he's great. He's
still great.
Like he's got 3 HBO specials.
Yes,
like,
he does.
He's out of control. Yeah.
But he also just wanted to play pool. And then Joe Kilgallen, I would not talk to because he frightened the hell out of me. Like he's a good comedian, but he scared me to the bone.
Ooh, that's interesting. Why?
I think
what was up with Joe?
I think it was no. I don't hate him. I like Joe. I think his attitude was just frightening to me. Maybe it was the onstage attitude of the like, I'm Chicago, screw you.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't. I wouldn't put him up there with some of the folks who really gave that impression to me. I think Joe man, I was somehow at my advanced age of 36. I no longer want to name names for some reason. I don't know why. And I think part of it is because I don't remember them as well anymore.
At my advanced age of 41, it's all about reminiscing, and I will drop names. I do not care, but also the people that I talk to are probably very, very different than the 14 years that have transpired since we've talked last.
Yeah. It is kind of wild.
Yeah. Except for Marty. Marty's the same.
Marty's
like
great.
not in a bad way. Marty's just Marty.
No, he's just great. He's great. Very talented. He's getting a lot of work commercial wise these days.
I saw him in a Swiffer ad or something.
Yeah.
And I texted him and I just wrote like, you're on my TV.
Oh, Wiley, I saw Mike Wiley, but here's what's crazy thing happened. On Wednesday morning, I took my car to get serviced, and I walk by the waiting room, and fucking Mike Wiley is there. Like,
yeah.
What's happening? What is happening right now? So we talked a little bit, and it was fun to be like, wait a second, Kristen Lundberg. We ran a short-lived, off the radar comedy show with her, and now she's fucking TV shit all over the place.
Yeah.
Like it is so weird that it does kind of seem to happen to every scene. The random people that pop into the business here and there and where they wind up. It's like a pachinko machine, it's like everybody who does comedy can just drop the thing in there and is like, oh, stand up, writer, failure, dead, OD, like those are the things that you can get when you get in the comedy machine.
Yeah, because when I came out from Chicago and started doing it in the Burbs, like it was like Kyle Kinane. It's like, oh, I did a set with him in an open mic, and now he's famous. And then like Hannibal Buress, who I'd seen once at an open mic and then got famous. Then Drew Michael. And so it's like Beth Stalling, same thing. So it's just it's kind of weird because you think about like, oh man, look at these people that made it, completely forgetting like that same open mic you were at, there was 30 people who never did it again.
Yeah.
At a 60 person comedy showcase.
And 5 who did it too much, too long.
That's me.
No, I don't think so. I think that's one of the other things about it though, is like the decade that I spent there in the comedy coal mines. Yeah. Just with my
with your Canarian pickaxe.
Yeah. that the like training for the sound of it, for funny in general,
Mhm.
is in like it's the best. There's no better education in funny
Yeah.
than that instant feedback of stand-up comedy.
Yes.
If you can do stand-up, then you can understand funny, period.
Mhm.
People who do improv can't understand funny. I'm looking at you.
I had things written out.
Teen prov.
You're mentioning such a weird, specific joke between four of us of me making fun of improv.
I know. It's just never gonna get boring. It's
See,
never
if you're
gonna get
sitting
boring to
down,
me.
kids, I'm going to explain Team Prov. I just wanted people to understand this. There was at a
Please
local.
explain teen prov.
I will 100 explain where it came from and everything very quickly. There was an improv for teens class at the local comedy club by us, and the person running it was the comedy club's owner. And at that time, I was in my mid 30s, maybe early 30s. I said, "Hey, can I join your improv for teens class?" as a joke. And he was very upset and said, "No, like this is for teens." And I go, "Fine, I'll start my own teenage improv class." And it was very much just us joking in like Facebook chat, like, if you're sitting down, you got to be driving a car.
If you're always driving, if you're sitting,
You're always, unless there's
You're
someone
always
standing
driving.
next to you, then that person's a
Yep.
doctor and you have cancer.
What's that in your hand? It's a phone.
It's always a phone.
First lesson. It's always a phone that's in your hand.
And it's always bad news, but you answer it happy. Hello? Oh no, my dog's dead? Goodbye. Yes, and
I like that. I like yes and as not a like command so much as a coda.
yeah. That was Teen Prov.
Yep.
Which we would do in the back very loudly during open mics.
Yeah.
We were kind of assholes.
There, there was an aspect of the cool kids hung out in the back for sure.
Yeah.
But there was also an element of like it was a weirdly Lord of the Flies hierarchical environment that developed, like there were so many people who were like, oh, I've only been doing it for like 3 months. I'm going to study what people are doing on the stage, doing that whole thing. And then you've got people who are kind of alone, kind of looking over at, the 4 or 5 of people who were actually funny, who are kind of just not paying attention because they didn't have to.
Yeah.
And it was so much like a foreground, middle ground, background kind of painting.
That's something that was always weird to me, is like, as myself as a comedian, I was playing myself on stage. I was very middle at best. But like screwing around with you guys and making up characters to go on stage and like writing jokes for teddy bears before I went on stage of all of us, like made me something more important to the scene, which I always found very weird. Because the whole idea is like these characters are just mirrors of people I don't like that I see at open mics. They were always me doing impersonations of people I didn't like on a personal level. But it got me at the cool kids table.
That'll happen.
And then got me running comedy shows for some reason, which became a thing for a lot of people out in the suburbs when there was Zanies was the only place to go for us. And
yeah,
Zanies you had to audition, which I found so weird. I understand why they did it, but I found it weird.
Yeah, I auditioning for Zanies the first time was the worst. And I really did not do well in front of people that I cared about. Yeah. But I I will say that in the green room, which is the upstairs, we were in the Zanies in Old Town. So there's the floor room, which seats about 100 people. And for a Tuesday night showcase, it seats about 15 people. And but Bert, the owner, or not the owner, the operator, general manager of Zanies for 70,000 years, from the birth of the Mesozoic, he gave the speech, which everybody of my generation who went through Zanies knew what the speech was, which is just like, you're gonna fail. It was just, you're gonna fail. It was basically, it, like, the long and the short of it was quick comedy. And that was what he gave you before you audition. So he sits down the 8 people or whatever who are going to do the open, or the showcase show, gives them the talk, and then fucks off into his office and is just like, all right, well, good luck. And so the first time there, I'd only been doing it for like 8 months. I was way too soon, and I was so nervous that I went out, and there was this one dude, and he was like, "Oh, do you want a hit of this?" And I took a hit of very powerful weed, that I later am concerned with whether or not it was just that, because when he was on stage, he went into a long thing about how he sells drugs, and very well. He's very good at it, and he might have hurt somebody. And I don't know if he was telling jokes so much as committing or admitting to crimes. And so that was 2 sets before I went on stage. So I was just going like, okay, all right. So then I bombed, but whatever. That's fine. But then when I did get past at Zanies, after about 3 years, Bert stopped doing the speech. They stopped doing the kind of auditions thing that they used to do.
Really?
They stopped doing all of that. And I was pissed. So mad. That was such an important part of comedy lore. There were so many generations of comedy that literally could communicate via like, oh, you went through Zanies? Did you get the Bert speech? And they're like, yeah, it used to be longer, and it is like, and that was the other thing, is like that old generation was like, Bert's speech was meaner back then, back whenever everybody was in the 80s and some guy was wearing a diaper, and that was his fucking, I'm the adult baby comic, and he made $70,000 a year.
Was that me? I'm the adult baby comic. I'm little wah.
Yeah, that's true. If you missed the time, if you were coming up in the mid 80s, you would have roamed the earth like a god. People would have been like, this guy has so many gimmicks. I don't even know what to do with this man.
He did a one-man show. It was 40 hours long.
Totally. Carson would have you on every night and be like, I can't believe he's got a new character for me.
I would get to star in Defending Your Life. We had our own Bert. It wasn't we had Bert Borth from
Sure.
It was Walter Payton's Roundhouse back then. Now it's Drufke runs the show there. But like all you would do is email him, I think I'm pretty funny. Can you give me a spot on your show? And you get like a guest spot. You get one chance. And if you did good during your guest spot, you'd be in his list of like people he could just pick out whenever he needed them. And that was my first time on stage there. I threw up in the bathroom because it's a real stage. It's like 5 feet tall. It has a real PA system, a real audience that's always there. I threw up in the bathroom. I got on stage. I told my jokes about like the movie Labyrinth, before I,
Listen, we've all been there.
Yeah, first year of comedy.
You're supposed to suck. You're supposed to suck. If you don't suck, fuck you.
Yeah.
I know some people who didn't suck. Fuck them. And I'm glad that they went on to have success. Blah 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 blah. Go fuck yourselves. You were good in the first year, and I will never forgive you for that.
I did decently the first one, like, because there's a few jokes that landed, and the rest were like, oh, I'm just saying dick and swearing way too much, because that's your first year of comedy. You're just, you know, like, penis!
Yeah.
And no one laughs. You're like, oh, wait a minute. So I got to be on his list.
Yeah, that was my problem, is that was also closer to my last year of comedy. I had a very quick rise and fall. Like a penis.
But like one of my last times performing at like Walter Payton's Roundhouse before it became Two Brothers, Bert had someone on the list opening for me. So like I was the middle feature, and it was a homeless guy named Wrench who reeked of alcohol and talked about for 5 minutes straight, even while the red light was flashing for him, about like, I just got to move out to Mexico. And I was convinced it was a character for a while. Like, I'm just going to take everything. I'm just going to move down to Mexico and just like, you could do what you want in Mexico.
All right. Okay. I'm listening.
And then I come up and it's like, you know, the movie Labyrinth from the 80s.
Oh, I miss that's the one thing that I do miss. The open mic lunatics.
Yes.
And maybe they don't, I don't know if they exist anymore. Maybe the pandemic got rid of them too.
Really? You think so?
I didn't see any of them.
There's usually always one. Most of the time there's 3.
There should be 3. A healthy, they're like a keystone species for your comedy scene. There should be at least 3 people at your open mic who could do anything.
Yeah. There's always the one that doesn't have jokes, and there's the funny guy at the audience or funny guy at the office.
Sure.
But they'll go to every open mic forever and never give up.
Yeah, they're the worst. Yeah.
My personal least favorite is person wearing funny hat that sits in the front that talks during every set. And then they go up and bomb.
Yeah.
And the third is the guy who is or girl, but it's always a guy. Who am I kidding? Who talks about how they're killing all over and just doing massive shows, and again doesn't know how to tell a joke on stage.
Yeah. But those guys, I want to say both 1 and 3 are generally sex pests. Also.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot.
Let's just face up the truth of comedy.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. What I liked is like, Drufke and I talked a bit about this, and like we just started banning those people from every show. I won't name names because at this point it doesn't matter anymore, but like there was a group of people that we had in like a private chat. Like, these are the names of people, like they're making women feel uncomfortable. Like, fuck off.
Yeah, man. That was rough. I was more speaking of the true, the diamonds, you know, like not like that diamond. I'm talking about your Madge Jablonskis of this world. You know, those people who come up and they have something so unique and so devastating to a normal group of people that they sit there in shock and awe. And then I get to laugh by myself in the back of the room. Those are the people that I'm talking about that really I miss those people. Because that's the type of funny that I can't ever create or recreate.
I came into comedy with one of those people, with an early like comedy group. The Eastboro Corrugation or whatever we were called, Eastboro Camp or whatever, the EBC. It was whatever. But the leader of the group was a guy who was like, I'm going to tell you stories that are going to blow your mind. And he was very charismatic on stage and had a great voice, but didn't have jokes. Like, one of his things was like, you guys want to hear about the time, like, I was shitting blood? And the audience, who already liked him, would be like, yeah! And then he'd tell a 20-minute story with not one joke in it. And very quick, and I do miss guys like that. I miss comedians like that where they have nothing to say, but they talk forever.
Nope. They just keep on going.
Were you around for Shad Roberts?
Oh, yeah. I remember Shad Roberts. Wow. I haven't thought about Shad Roberts. That was more y'all's thing. I didn't hate Shad as much because I just wasn't in the orbit as often. Every time I was around Shad, I was like, I can just not be around him anymore. I think you guys were captured because he just kept showing up at your open mics and shit.
He was at every open mic in the suburbs.
Yeah, I just walked out. I just left.
But most of his bits were like, and I like the bit, I just don't like him. But he also did the bit for way too long. He would come up on stage like, I wrote a letter to President Obama, and he'd open up the letter, and it says, "Dear President Obama," and he'd turn it around, and it just had the words "fuck you" written on it. But he did that bit like, I wrote a letter to Ronald McDonald. Like, okay, we know where this is going at this point. But we were like enthralled with hatred and disdain and like a little bit of jealousy because like he'd get that first huge laugh from like the Dear Obama one, fuck you.
Yeah.
But then as it went on, he'd kill the crowd. And whoever went up next was screwed because the audience is like angry at that point.
Yeah.
He also
Yeah,
broke
yeah.
a bunch of mics by throwing them on the ground, but that's a whole other
He did
story.
do that. Yeah. Yeah, people just disrespect the equipment. There's not much to say beyond that.
Yeah. If you want to
After
get
that-
banned.
Listen, I mean, it's a dark state of affairs, but I know people who are like, well, you make women feel uncomfortable. You can come back once every 6 months. And people who are like, you broke a microphone. I'll see you in hell. I'll see you in hell.
Yeah, exactly.
I will bite my own hand off before I let you touch my equipment again.
But if you make the audience feel uncomfortable, I'll see you at Christmas.
I mean, hey, come on. What are we gonna cause problems now? What is this, comedy?
Hey, after your set, just steer clear of the women. But we'll see you back here at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it is tough. I think a lot of people rightfully criticize the old comics.
Yeah.
For their stupid snowflake, all that bullshit.
Yeah.
They can shove it up their butts, But what that should tell you is just how lawless comedy really was.
Yes.
For a long time. Truly lawless. That even the most minor of shit like this, they go, hey, come on. I guess I'm going to be a Nazi now,
Oh, what, am I canceled? Oh,
Yeah.
no.
I guess Tim Allen was right.
But that was like the time that I came in like 2007, 2008. Like it was the changing of the guard at that point. It was, I came in, it was all the old guys who like, I love Pops to death. I don't know if you ever saw him. He just did one-liners. There was the Duke of one-liners. He just did one-liners.
I remember the Duke of one-liners.
But they all wore outfits on stage. And it was,
he was the Duke of one-liners. And he lived up to it.
He did.
He promised and he delivered. And that is something that you can never take away from him because there are a lot of comics that have promised a lot and never deliver. That's it. There's at least a base level achievement to being a person who does one-liners if you call yourself the Duke of one-liners.
But it was all like a bunch of people that just did one-liners and they'd be like filling up the show. I want to tell you one of my favorite jokes from Pops, who was a man in his 60s, been doing comedy forever. And my favorite joke he ever did was, I used to do drugs in the 60s. Now I don't care what the temperature is.
All right.
It's
well
not,
done.
It's not like laugh out loud funny, but I loved like the setup, the beat, and the punchline.
It's a well-crafted bit. Yeah.
It's very like toilet joke book material.
Well, I mean, there's something about like for us, because I don't laugh at much, even if it is, if it's funny, it's funny.
Yeah.
And I'll laugh sometimes, but not often because most things aren't. Everything is illusions for the public, that kind of thing. I can't laugh at a sleight of hand bit anymore. I have a hard time laughing at look over here. And that's where we're going. Haha. Ta-da. That kind of thing. Because it's like, and if it's a really well done one, I react the way a magician would, which is like, wow, that's some great sleight of hand, not like, whoa,
my mind has been blown.
Yeah. And can you imagine a magician looking at another magician going, oh, after the fucking coin disappeared? What are you talking about?
That is my card.
So that's tough, but you can always appreciate the like construction because when you remove yourself from the sleight of hand, then you can see like, oh, this is where the pieces fit together.
Yes.
This is a well-crafted bit that is almost like a set of stairs, if you created a bit well enough, then you should go right on time, dump, 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 and then you fall.
Yeah.
It's like that. So yeah, just because that shit doesn't make me laugh doesn't mean I don't understand the quality.
Exactly. And I was saying it was that changing of the old guard where like I remember doing a showcase at a hookah bar because that was a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And two of the other comedians who are old guard comedians being very upset because a woman was on the show. Kat Rabarski, love you to death, Kat. We wrote together for years.
Hi, Kat.
But somebody just been like, ugh, a woman comic. What's she going to talk about? I'm like, well, like her jokes are like, I like her jokes. Like I still yell Tallahassee at her, which is one of her punchlines from a joke 20 years ago. Like she's going to tell jokes. She just has different genitals than you. Don't worry.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you.
A woman? Ugh.
So many hookah bars. So many hookah bars.
That's because there was no showcases in the suburbs. It was all like hookah bars.
Yeah.
Or you'd be doing a set in a bar while the Blackhawks playoffs were on.
Right. Oh, for sure. Those were always fun.
Why aren't
those
these
were always
canceled?
fun? I mean, I think it's hard to like find the right balance between that overwhelming grind culture that also existed at the time.
Yeah.
You know, in Chicago, there was the grind culture of like, we got to try and hit 3 mics a night. Otherwise you'll never be funny. And in the suburbs, there wasn't enough to fight for stage time.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of people were kind of stuck in that middle zone of trying to drive into the Chicago to do mics and then getting looked at as suburbs people because they didn't go up 3 times a night.
Yep.
You know, and then being somebody in the suburbs being like, man, it's not for lack of fucking trying.
There's just not enough.
Yeah.
I mean, like Drufke and I and like a few other guys like tried making more showcase or like more open mics, but there's not enough comedians, and there's at that time no demand for comedy.
Yeah.
We had zanies down the street doing shows 2 or 3 times a week. There was just no one wanted to see comedy. People wanted to see cover bands.
Yeah.
So it's like we did decent with like the showcase that we had, or where we did an open mic, it was fine, but there's nothing you could do. Like nobody wants to do comedy out in the suburbs, and if they do, they're probably crazy because we were all kind of weird and loopy and whatnot.
Yeah, and just, you know, between the age of 20 and 35.
We just
that puts us at the low end of the suburbs population.
Exactly.
Demographic wise.
It was all just an excuse to hang out with friends. That's all it was.
Oh yeah.
And
well, there was the one mic that Lewis and I ran that was literally an excuse to hang out with friends.
Oh, you mean the
because
one that
it was just
the one that both of you and I were on the poster for?
Yeah. Yeah.
And my first reaction was, why am I on a fucking poster for a comedy open mic?
Because that's where you needed to be.
But it was me as myself. The worst version of me.
God, you know what? If you don't like Matt at his mat, you don't deserve Teddy at his beers.
You don't deserve the insult comedy of lip syncer Saucy Snells. That show actually came up on this podcast 2 episodes ago with my friend Sarah Clancy. She saw me do Tougher America for the first time there.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And she hated it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, come on, that was fun.
That was a fun show. That was one of my favorite shows because it literally was just like a bunch of friends hanging out.
Yep.
And it was an actual audience.
Yeah, we would be, and that was it wasn't like other open mics where it was just a bunch of people who didn't want to be there, who were just waiting for their turn to go up.
Yeah.
It was almost weird in that everybody took their turn, but everybody was waiting and like it was almost like a call and response at plenty of times, you know, where people would be shouting out tags while you're doing your bit, and it would be something that you'd take.
Yeah,
you'd be like, yes.
It was just it literally was just like our clique and whoever else wanted to be a part of that, but like a community of comedians that wanted to actually watch each other do comedy, which you never got in the city. And only very rarely got in the suburbs because everybody's more worried about themselves, which I understand.
Sure.
But I also like that, you know, all of us would get together, do a showcase in the basement of a tap house, and like raise a bunch of money for a charity, but it was just like we all wanted to watch each other do comedy, and sometimes the audience would as well.
Yeah. That is I mean, it sounds a lot more romantic than it really was.
Yeah, because it was to inflate our own egos.
Well, I mean, not just that, but it's like we were all fairly sad people too. So,
Yeah.
you can remember it as all smiles and games, but it was also a lot of us bitching about the world falling up out around our ears. But that's pretty much the same.
But anyway, don't pay attention to that. Here comes out of work court jester.
Yeah, that was fun though. The what was it, like darts or something right off to the side where 95% of the time that we did the open mic, it was just us doing it for us.
Yeah.
Nobody was bothering anybody. But then every now and again, the loudest darts machines would go off because people wanted to play darts, and it was like triple 20. And you're like, okay, all right, well, hey, you know what? I don't have any complaints.
They're letting us do this for free. We're not
Pretty
really
much.
making them money, but
No. I think Lewis and I got 2 beers each. I think that was our payment. Oh man. I love running a show for a beer. Is it common? Yeah.
because
Most common thing in the world.
because the bars don't pay you, and then you don't realize till years later, like, oh, I could have been making money from the bar from this if it's successful.
Yeah.
Well.
It wasn't.
Yeah, that show lasted like 3 months, I think, didn't it?
Is that a rebuttal or an observation?
Observation, and not in a not in a
Yes.
knockdown way.
Yes, that was about 3 months, I think.
Yeah, because I'm not trying to knock it down, but like, I think 3 weeks in, we very much knew, like, oh, this is just for us.
Oh yeah, and it was never going to change.
Yeah,
There was no way we were going to like bring a crowd to this place.
no,
A crowd didn't exist for this place.
no.
That's why they invited us in the first place. If there was a crowd, they would not allow us anywhere near their place.
Our Tuesday nights are really dying. What can we do? I don't know. Bring in 6 comedians every week to get dinner and a beer.
Ugh, you could do so many other things, and yet everyone still gets bilked into doing their own comedy night. I've never seen a restaurant that hasn't tried a comedy night and then quickly learned a lesson.
So the only ones that did not fail, Drufke's Still Not Friday,
Sure.
and I'd say AOK Comedy only failed
That
because
lasted a long time.
it lasted for 3 years, and then the restaurant closed, and then they opened it up at a bar, and then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
So it was like 5 or 6 years, but it was
Yeah.
better at the bar because it was like intimate
Intimate.
seating. It was
Yeah.
nice. It wasn't a venue for rock bands.
Yeah, that was a little bit weird at times.
Yeah, that
I
was
mean,
my bad. I picked
you'd
that
get-
venue.
You'd get a crowd of like 30 people, which would be great at the time, but you put them in a cavern and it's not great.
No, I think I heard one person laugh.
Yeah, yeah.
Come back next week because it's the mid 2000s and we're doing a roast.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the nature of comedy. That's the worst part about it is it's so venue dependent. Like
Yeah.
working the improv in Schaumburg.
Yep.
We a show for 250 people is awesome.
Mhm.
In a venue that seats 250. In a venue that seats 600, you might as well be talking to 30 people.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy how dependent on the energy and the tightness of people being kind of packed in. There's just got to be that electricity to really make it pop off.
That's why I always like Comedy Under the Tap In. That was Oswego. It was ran by Amelia, and I think Drufke was running a bit of it too.
Burt Borth ran it for a
Burt
couple of.
Borth, that's right.
Yep. I remember because that's where I did my little set for Burt Borth is Comedy Under the Tap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it sat like, I think 60 people. It was always packed, and I could do the worst material in the world, and people were just happy to see comedy.
Yep. I
And
remember. Oh my God, who was the guy who did Chris Farley?
I know who you're talking about, but I don't remember.
So for me, there are two from Under the Tap for me
Yeah.
in my brain, right? There's Dan Brennan who did the Family Guy.
Yes.
And then there was the guy who was supposed to be better, who is like Burt Borth was like, this is the guy I bring in who kind of travels around and does that. And he did Chris Farley. So those are the only two things that I really remember.
Was the second guy Bob J?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, there was Dave J. I was doing a Tony Carr show.
Sorry.
Always the best.
I've got a Tony Carr story.
Oh boy. And Dave J was headlining, and what always blew me away is that Tony Carr loved to have him headline, and he closed with the street joke. But he closed with a street joke. But then one night in the middle of his thing, he just went on this whole anti-trans. I don't know what happened. No. It was a joke about Caitlyn Jenner, because that had just that it was in the news or for whatever reason, and he went off on like a if my dad did that, I would kill him type shit, and it was the craziest anti-trans thing I've ever heard in person without like violence immediately following. And it was literally like, Tony, if I ever see this person again, you and I are done, and he might not survive it. You know, it's that kind of fucked up.
Yeah. Does anybody have, and this is no offense to Tony Carr, who like would book shows and was always very nice, but Baby Gap. Sorry, his jokes are now coming into my head.
Oh, Tony Carr.
But does anybody have out there a Tony Carr show story that didn't end with something really off-putting?
Well, I think, okay, yes, there have been plenty of Tony Carr shows that didn't end with something off-putting. You know that because you still keep going back for the next show.
Okay.
If all of them were off-putting, eventually you would have stopped. The ones that were off-putting, though, are off-putting in such a memorable way. They kind of crowd out all other memories. Like there was, the first time I was potty trained or something like that. That's gone. Now it's just that one time I was at this Tony Carr show, and this old lady stood up and threw pudding at the feet of the person on stage, but it wasn't a stage. We're all on the same height. It's just a floor. And guess what? That's a mediocre Italian fake restaurant. And you're like, yeah, that's a Tony Carr show.
My most memorable one, and this was a good, and from what I remember, it was a good lineup. It was like Kat and Drufke. My buddy was on leave from the Navy and like was here for 3 days. And like one of the days, I'm going to see you do comedy. I'm like, yay! and we're doing a charity show, which like I'm always like, yeah, let's raise money for like a good cause. It's always something I've really enjoyed. But it was for kids with a certain. When I got there, I learned it was for kids with a certain type of disease.
Joie de vivre.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, we're helping money for kids. Great. So during the middle of the show, right before I go on, the person that led the foundation got on the mic. It was like, I'd like to thank you all for coming and donating your time, donating your money, and the comedians for, coming up here and telling jokes. It's been such a great night for these kids. Now let's have the kids come out here themselves to thank the audience. Yeah. Jordan's making a O face.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No,
and it was so like sad. And like it was because these kids are dealing with a real disease. The crowd's mood was so lightened and so fun. And then she brought up a bunch of kids that like were like, thank you so much. And then it's like, and next up's the comedy of Matt Elfring. So I'm driving my car and I keep hitting stoplight after stoplight. And the crowd's just like, I'm like, I understand, crowd. You're done. Like, that's a tough transition, man.
I mean, maybe don't bring up that noses are falling onto the floor. Like, that's just not going to lead into a good set.
Because the entire audience is like, I feel for these children. I want to
Sure.
I want to help out. Now, here's a guy talking about, once again, the movie Labyrinth. If you've seen him before, you've seen this joke.
Well, I'll tell you this. The problem there, the ultimate problem is that your comedy instincts kick in, and there's the part of you that goes like, I can turn this around. All right.
Yes!
Maybe if I come up with a real clever thing to say right after the kids walk off, Like, at least leprosy's not a problem anymore, right? Like, if I say something that'll diffuse the tension, then I can make it through this. And it's just not going to happen.
No, there is nothing you can do to transition out of sick kids to let's have a great set.
Yeah, that's just not going to happen.
You think
that's
about
when
it.
you start eating dinner.
Like, what do we do? Like, does this halftime? Do we call this do we put a stage show on before I go? Could someone get shut out of a cannon, please? But just something.
You really do need a complete reset after that. Yeah.
All right, here's the Steve Miller Band cover band, The Jokers.
See, that's perfect. Yeah, that'll do it.
Here comes the Eagles cover band, Hotel California. Oh, Jordan. Hey, we could talk about comedy all day, but thank you for coming on to just hang out.
Oh, absolutely. Talk. It was great.
It was great.
It's great. I love it. I like to tell stories that, it doesn't happen on our show.
Yeah.
We don't talk comedy.
No, you talk. Well, I mean, you do talk comedy, but in the darkest way possible.
Right. Well, we're funny, but we don't talk the biz too often.
Yeah.
Although occasionally we do get into the weeds a little too much, but it's always nice to remember that I spent a decade of my life on something, and that someone remembered it.
I remember.
Right. Like, this isn't we're not at Ozymandias yet.
Not yet. We're so
not
close.
Yet. Well, give me a couple weeks. My feet blow away in very quickly.
This is where you would plug things if you want to plug things. So go and plug.
Oh yeah. We do knowledgefight.com. That's for the show Knowledge Fight. But also I have a book, The Quiet Part Loud. I really like it and I think it's good. And over time I've appreciated it more.
You definitely hated it when it came out.
There were things. But that's just kind of the element of releasing your child into the world.
Yeah, that's the process of writing.
Yeah. But yeah, those are the things. And then I don't know, I'll probably make something else. Yeah. But not for now.
No, and you've been unbanned from my house for a few years.
That's true.
You could.
It's been a soft unbanning though. I have still not taken. It's like how Trump was unbanned from Twitter, but he's still not gone back.
No,
it's a little bit like that.
The story, which I will never fully explain publicly, because it's not that bad. It's just weird. No one remembers it but you and me.
Yeah.
No one remembers the banning.
Mm-mm.
and why it happened.
It's just fun. It's just funny. It's because a lot of people, they've only been banned from maximum one house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
have a collection. I keep them on my wall, the number of houses that I'm banned from. And to be unbanned is a true honor.
We've got a different dog now. We have a child here. My wife and I are actually married. I don't know if that was a thing back then.
Not at first. No.
We were just forever together.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, Jordan, thank you.
You are very welcome. Thank you for having me.
No. Thank you for coming on.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you. Yes, and. Hey, thank you to Jordan Holmes for coming on my show. I just want to talk to friends. That's what you've been listening to. Go check out Knowledge Fight if you want. Do what you want to do. Be who you want to be. Anyways, please go rate us and review us on iTunes. Sorry, Apple Podcasts. I say iTunes because you can't just change the name of something and expect everybody to know that. I'm on Twitter. Check me out. I don't post on there anymore. Who am I kidding? Opening and closing music by The Muggles featuring Tom Wanderer on vocals and screaming. Featuring also Will Ash on guitar, Andrew Parks on bass, and me, Matt Elfring, on drums. We recorded this 20 years ago. You can get it at muggles.bandcamp on vinyl. The song's called Gilded Age right there. Couple of great episodes, lots of great episodes coming up. Next week we've got a game designer. 2 weeks from then we got a wrestler. 3 weeks from that, we've got Chris Hayner and a wrestler. So many wrestlers. All of the wrestlers are coming on. All right. Thank you very much for listening. Go to my Substack. I'm mattelfring.substack.com. Hey, read the things I read on there. It's a lot of fun stuff. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.